Hello, boss. I have another Pipedrive tip for you today, and that is using a feature called deals. So let's take a real quick look at what deals are and how we can use them. So deals is the first thing you're going to see when you open up Pipedrive. Some people call it your pipeline, and it'll even be called that sometimes in Pipedrive. I like to challenge you to think about deals a little bit differently, because for a lot of us, we understand the basic concepts of having a sales funnel, aka a pipeline. I want to consider you to use it for other things as well. When I talk about invite, engage, serve, which is one way of helping kind of mix up the different interactions you have with contacts, it also helps address when interacting with people that aren't just potential clients. It helps address the many other different groups of people that you will have in and around your business. One of those, invite, is a really powerful way of getting people re-engaged into your business. And you can use your deals or pipeline section in Pipedrive to help you keep track of people you have invited to various different things. Real quick, let's think about some ideas of what are things we would invite people to. We would invite people to join our newsletter. We'd invite people to join our Facebook group. We might invite people to join a workshop, both free and paid. Of course, we're going to invite people to join us as paid customers and clients. But even outside of that, we might invite people to join a networking group. We might invite somebody to participate in an activity with us. And any of those, there's usually a back and forth and at some point a yes or no and actions that can be taken. And so this can be a really great way to visually see who people or where people are in that process. We will use deals, the pipeline here, as a way to keep track of who we want to invite, who we have invited, and where they are in that process. Oh, another example could be if you have a podcast and you want to track people, whether you've invited them, if they've scheduled a time, if they've sent their bio in, if you've done the actual recording and you've sent them the follow-up information. All of those are really great things to track in this. So the first thing you do is identify what is the purpose of this pipeline? What is the purpose of this particular set of things? The next thing we'll do is we'll figure out what are stages within that. Now, stages and tasks are two different things. And so we want to make sure we understand the difference. Stages are areas of which we are in a process of doing something. It can be one thing needs to happen before they move between stages, but sometimes it can be multiple things can happen within a stage. When I want to invite somebody to something, sending them that invitation might be a single step. And here you will see my little example pipeline I have here is a little workshop invite. So say I have a workshop coming up soon and I want to invite people into it. So the first thing I want to do is recognize who do I want to invite, and I will put them in that first column. I always like to have a column of who I want to have in this process, because you're going to have names and people come up, and you want to be able to put those names somewhere so that you know I want to make that invite, I want to get that process started. So let's say I have my name in here multiple times, so you're going to see my name in here a bunch. I have Bethany and Rachel George as I want to invite, and I have Bethany George as well. The name here you'll see where it says Bethany George Deal, that name is that title of the deal is actually based on usually the organization. You can see it here in this one where it says Bethany and Consulting Deal. That is the organization assigned with that contact. These two don't actually have an organization assigned, so it defaults to the name. You can change that on any of these by simply clicking on it. When you first invite or create that deal, you can also change that. So it's up here, the same place where any other title would be, and you can edit that. I like to remove the deal because I just want to see their name. Another thing to know about deals is it has its own data fields. So you can customize these data fields as well. These are specifically to deals. They will not show up in the contact. They will not show up in the organization. So this can be really good for if you're doing like podcast and you want to have the date scheduled. So once they have scheduled, you have a date in here. And so then if you have an email template that goes out later that says, don't forget, we are scheduled to record on this date, you can actually have it pull in that data as well. So that's one of the other things that you can keep track of in here. You can send emails All emails sent through deals will both be connected to that deal and connected to that contact, so you can find them in both places. And you can set activities in here as well. These activities will live with the deal, may or may not be connected with the contact. So you can actually have it connected to one, both, or neither. And just a quick example of that. So when I create an activity, here is the person and here is the deal. And sometimes you'll notice, even if you look at an activity with under a contact, you can see if it's connected with the deal or not. You will see how this particular contact, this particular deal, demonstrated by this card, has this bright yellow triangle. And that triangle is an indication that there is no activity scheduled. It's a kind of reminder, don't forget, there's no activity here. What needs to happen next? While as this one down here has a red circle. And that red circle is indicating there is an activity, but it is due. It is past due, as you can see here. Invite. What deals are really great for, you can set automation in this process, which is also very helpful. So you can set an automation that when I move this contact or this card from want to invite to invite sent, for example, I can set an automation that will automatically send an email template with that invitation. Hey, Bethany, I wanted to make sure that you knew about my upcoming workshop. It is going to be on this date at this time, and this is the subject matter, and I would love for you to come. If you're interested, just respond with a quick yes or follow this link, and I'll make sure we get you signed up. That's one of the things you can do in this process. Like I said, you can have a column for, I want to make sure I invite or inform these people. And then when you're ready, you can set an automation and an email template pre-created so that when you shift them over, it automatically sends that out to them. Then from here, perhaps you're waiting for a response. So you notice that all of these columns or stages have a past tense reference to it for the most part. Want to is a little different because it's the beginning, but invite sent, responded, info sent, confirmed, and signed up. Those are all past tense. The reason being is as they move into each stage, something has already happened. There was a step that has been taken that now shifts them into the next stage. So with the invite sent, now I'm usually waiting for a response. I might set a reminder here that I want to follow up if no response is received. And if you think about that, that's one of the things about follow-up that you really need to keep top of mind, is that follow-up isn't just reactionary. Actually, more importantly, it should be more intentional and proactive. So in this case, if I invite somebody to something, I want to set a reminder that if by a certain time I've received no response, I do a follow-up, or maybe I message them in a different format. Go to LinkedIn, go to Facebook, go find them somewhere else, text them directly, text or call them directly. And that is a great way, because sometimes emails get lost, sometimes people forget. Reaching out personally is way more effective than them receiving a general email that a lot of times people know. They can tell it's a general email, and so they might have seen it, but that doesn't mean they need to respond to it. In the back of their mind, they've said, oh, I'm going to look into that, I'll check my calendar, I will see about it, maybe I have a question, I'll email them later about it, and then it's out of their mind. It is up to you to keep it in their mind. That's where the stages are really important, because you can see there can be multiple actions that may need to happen within a stage. So invite sent, I've sent this email, now I'm waiting for a response, then a response happens and I will move them to the next stage. In this one right here, responded and said yes, you'll notice that the little action icon is green, and green is an indication of something to be done today. So in this case, I added a stage of responded, they're interested, I need to follow up with more information. And I could also do an automation right here where it will send that email out as well. Additional automations that you can create is when a contact is moved to a particular stage, there is automation that reminds you of those activities. So when I moved this card to invite sent, we could have the automation that sends an email. Also have an automation that creates a reminder activity to check in if no response received. And both of those can be created in the same workflow. So if you've learned about automations, then you can create an automation workflow that happens because the trigger is the same. The trigger is that they've moved from this stage to this stage. That is the trigger. That's how the automations in Pipedrive work. And then you will set it up to send email and create activity in X number of days or weeks or however much time, usually days. So that's something to look at and consider. So the key thing about deals that you want to remember is that there is special data that you're going to be in all deals. So even if you can have multiple pipelines, if you'll notice I have multiple here, whenever you create new data fields within a deal, which again are these right here, they're always going to show up in any deal. That doesn't mean you need to fill out every single one regardless of the deal they're in, because different deals will need different information. As I mentioned before, if you're doing some sort of podcast or show, you might have a record date and a broadcast date, and those dates will be important to have in there because you can use those for templates, and that will specifically show up in there. That's what this can be really good for. And as you can see, interest level, interest notes, there's some different things you can have. I actually have interview topic because I have done that feature before. Custom fields for deals is something to remember. Understanding stages is another important thing. And then using automation in this case is a really powerful way to use this automation as you move people through the stages. One of the other things in here that you'll notice when you are setting up your pipeline is this thing called rots in days. And basically what this is if you want to make sure that no one sits in a stage for longer than a certain amount of time before you do something with it, that's when you would click this on. And it'll ask for how many days. And let's say we say for 7 days. And now we're going to go ahead and save that. And what will happen is, and I can't give you an example of that right now because it is based on when somebody went into that stage. It'll actually make the card turn like red, which indicates that person, that contact has sat in that stage for too long. It is rotten, for lack of further description. The advantage of this can be simply that if you have a stage that has a very strict timeline on how long you want them to sit there before they move, maybe it's invite sent and you put it for a week or 2 weeks or something like that, and they sit there and get no response, that could actually be another way to set a reminder to check. But more importantly, you want them to move out of that stage very quickly. So if you have some sort of process that has a very strict timeline, that can be another way, another indicator for you that it's time to move on. So deals is a really powerful thing to use in a lot of these different processes and something that can help you visually keep track of people. This is not the place to put every contact that you get. And even people that may be interested in your business, deals can be tricky because it's not really intended for people that are moving slowly. This is really meant for things that are moving very actively and you want to keep on task with them. So keep that in mind. Something too is that it's very easy to get rid of these cards. So say I grab this and I'm like, I didn't actually mean to put them in here. I can simply delete. Or I get a response and they, in this case, they said yes. So now I've won and I can move it down here and that allows me to track it. It'll show up in the contact that we have done this process together, which is really handy. And there's fun little animations that pop up. And lastly, as you may have noticed, you can also move it down to lost. And lost will ask you, what happened? Why is it not moving forward? And there's a place under settings where you can actually set the lost reasons. So client wrong fit, money cash flow, wrong timing, no for now. Let's just say no for now. You can add comments, mark as lost. There's all different things that you can do with deals. I hope this helps you be more effective and stay on track with those connections of yours.